Yo, what's up guys? John Boogle here. The beginner meta. Throughout all the years of playing Battle Cats, I've witnessed many changes to the beginner meta, but this just might be the biggest one yet. Now, some of you may not know, but I've been playing Battle Rats for a pretty long time, and throughout all these years of playing, I've noticed many changes and many shifts in the meta, but the end game and some of the mid game meta is bound to change because the game just evolves and that's just how it is. But very rarely is there an occurrence where the beginner meta changes for this game. Also, by beginner I mean post Empire of Cats, because I consider Empire of Cats to be the tutorial of the game. Now when I started playing, it was drastically different because no crazed cats existed, Into the Future did not exist, and many things did not exist. However, there was still a meta for the beginner phase, and some of you might know what it is, but if you don't, this is what it is. It was dragon stacking. It was a simple but very effective strategy to use in pretty much every single stage. Don't have enough DPS? Dragon stack your way out of it. Facing an early game Cory? Dragon stack your way out of it. Don't have Paris? Dragon stack your way out of it. Stacking dragons up was almost like a cheat code because you were able to stack up all of these huge stat numbers and just watch dragons wreak havoc. And to the people who were really aware of the OG meta, they would notice that Dragon Cat's true form was a slightly nerfed version compared to the other true forms. PONOS very much knew just how overpowered dragon stacking meta was, and if dragon was to get its full true form percentage bonus, this would be a completely different story. Yes, dragon stacking is still effective in many stages, but slowly people started to realize the true power of Paris, and when Crazed Cat started releasing, Crazed Whale pretty much almost took over the whole beginner meta. And from there all the way up to this point, there has only been that major change, unless we're talking about the one I'm gonna talk about in this video. And it wasn't even a net positive change because Dragon's true form was a slightly nerfed version of what it was supposed to be. But stacking second form Dragon was still so powerful that it carried on for years and years. And then people started realizing after the Crazed Cats released the value in Crazed Whale. And for that time, that jump from Dragon Cat stacking to Crazed Whale abusing was a pretty big jump. But then there was also Crazed Dragon to fuel the dual dragon stacking, and that became a meta for some time as well. So dragon stacking was truly the most effective there was yet. Until now, out of nowhere, PONOS decided to release something so broken that it changed the entire beginner meta forever. And the thing I'm talking about is, of course, the powerful unit that is so easy to obtain in the beginner phase that completely shifted the beginner meta. I am talking about none other than Courier Cat. PONOS did release a wild card here. Of course, I've restarted, I've reached endgame multiple times, but this has to be the biggest impact a unit has had to the beginner phase ever. On this account, on my main right now, I was able to get Courier Cat before even completing or even starting Into the Future Chapter 2 without using any Ubers. And it just goes to show, they made this unit so incredibly easy to obtain. Maybe it was a bit too easy, and the power of this unit is quite unmatched in the beginner phase. A free-to-play unit, very easy to obtain, and also extremely powerful. So goodbye to dragon stacking and goodbye to the Crazed Whale sweep meta. We have a new king in town. Now I do plan on making a separate video on how to obtain Courier Cat in the beginner phase. There is multiple videos out there already, but people are requesting it, so might as well I will do it. Now with the power of Killer Cat, this behemoth here, this behemoth killer is the meta right now. Even in the mid game, it's able to completely carry a lot of stages there. And all you have to do is beat a couple behemoth stages and get some behemoth stones, and you have it. That's it. And if you aren't able to complete the 5 stages, then you could just wait for Enigma stages and get the stones there as well. Now, as positive as this may be, it also creates a downside because it focuses on the behemoth trait way too much. I won't be surprised if later down the line the whole mid-game is going to be completely focusing on behemoths, because they made this unit so completely broken that they have to make the behemoth enemies stand a little bit of a chance, and that is a dangerous thing. It is the ultimate double-edged sword that you get for getting a completely broken free-to-play unit. Yes, you could sweep through the whole beginner phase with your eyes closed now, and even part of the mid-game or even the whole of mid-game, but you'll run into these behemoth stages that might cause a lot of trouble, because now PONOS will not be afraid to make them just absolutely insane stat-wise and just make the bosses insanity as well. I do see Courier as a mostly positive thing. However, in the future, I won't be surprised if people come to despise this change and this huge leap, and some of that might already be happening within the community. But for now, enjoy just how broken Courier can be and how it could just easily carry you through the whole of early game and most of the mid game as well. This is a very rare occurrence, but now it just puts into question, what is PONOS really not afraid to do? Because they can very easily push the limits once again. And just recently they did release a pretty great unit, which is Firecracker. So comboing these two against red enemies in the whole beginner phase and mid-game phase, you're pretty much just not gonna have any trouble at all. But the thing about Firecracker is that it is strictly an anti-red unit. But the thing about Courier is it could be used as just a general attacker as well, which makes it so dangerous. Take this background gameplay for example. We were able to completely sweep through Red Citadel without even touching Into the Future Chapter 2 yet. Yes, and these citadels are a joke, but we have like no treasures and level 20 units, and the only carry here is Firecracker and Courier. It is just wild how you can completely bypass the whole beginner phase now, which is Courier. Now, as a guide maker myself, this is also a complete nightmare, because what this does, a unit this powerful and this impactful to the beginner meta, it almost invalidates pretty much every single beginner phase guide, because throughout any guide in the beginner and mid-game phase now, even in some late game guides, it just has one question. Does Courier Cat help in this stage? And as someone who makes guides, you can really find that terrifying, because majority of the players don't really know how to use guides properly. So when a gigantic meta shift like this happens in the beginner phase, they expect you to change. But really it is the other way around, where the player is supposed to adapt and change their lineup and situation. But there are some stages that the strategy does completely change with Courier Cat. So on that side, there are some guys that might need to be updated, but I feel that is on the players to figure out. Or it's just cope because I'm a guide maker. But you can probably imagine making guides for years and having the meta not really shift in a big way for years. Most guides have stayed relatively the same and have carried on similar strategies. But then one day PONOS decides to say, no. And now everywhere I go, every comment I look at, there always comes the question, is Courier Cat useful in this stage? And this is just the beginning of the ripple effects of this gigantic meta change for the beginner phase. If it starts bleeding into the mid game and even the end game, well, we'll just have to hope it doesn't get too insane, because PONOS should really have no fear to make the behemoth enemies now just completely busted. In the late beginner phase or in the very early mid game, I think the Aku Realms was handled pretty well, but Courier, if they would have just made Courier a bit more difficult to obtain, I don't think there would be any worry about the future of this huge meta shift. But that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I do want to keep this relatively short. Let me know when you guys actually obtained Courier Cat. Also, let me know what you do think about this huge meta shift in the beginner phase. Do you think Courier Cat being this easy to obtain and this powerful is a positive thing for the game, or will it have a negative impact in the future? Curious to see people's thoughts on that, so do let me know. And as a long-time OG player, I can see this going two ways very easily, and I could clearly see that Courier Cat is in fact a double-edged sword. But yeah, that's it. Let me know what you think of Courier. Let me know what you think of the meta shift. Link to the Discord is down below. Subscribe, like the video, all that stuff. But yeah, it's been John Boogle, and see ya.